everyone, Lauren Alvin with Add a Pup Dog and Puppy Training. 7 words you can never say when you're training your dog. Obviously, I'm not your boss, but if I am your dog trainer, then I'm going to correct you on this. So some clients might think I'm being pedantic. To an extent, I am, but there's a reason for this. I'll explain it at the end. So here's the 7 words you can't say when you're training your dog. Command, stubborn, jerk, obnoxious, dominant, stupid, bad. Don't eat them. Don't eat them, not accurate. Here's why. 1, command. Command is something you have to do or else. Command is what you get in the military. Command is the old word for it. Command is what they called it when there was no other way to train your dog except with choke, shock, prong collars. There's always been other ways to train your dog, but if you went to a class, that was pretty much it. So it's a fossil. What we use now is cue. It's more accurate. It's actually what we're doing. We're cueing the dog to perform a behavior in order to earn some sort of reinforcement. So it's like a cue for an actor to go on stage. When they hear, "Wherefore art thou, Romeo?" Romeo goes out, does his thing, he gets a clippity-clap at the end. That's his reinforcement. It's a sign that it's a starter pistol. Bang, if you do this, when you hear this sound or see this signal or whatever it is, smell this smell, then you're gonna get paid in whatever payment we're gonna give you. So it's a cue. You have a choice about it. If you don't wanna get paid, then you don't have to do it. But a command is something you have to do or else. Stubborn. Dogs aren't stubborn. More accurate word might be confused or stressed or undermotivated or unmotivated or undertrained or untrained. Dogs don't go, "You're dumb, I'm not gonna do this to make you mad." They respond to cues that they understand for payments that they find reinforcing. If they don't understand it, they're not gonna respond to your cue. If they have learned that cues are just words that you say sometimes, and sometimes they get paid for it, but also sometimes they're just nagging you, then that might look like stubborn, but what they've really figured out is she's just making those noises, whatever, it's not a big deal. And that's just undertrained or messily trained. Jerk. An accurate word might be stressed or afraid or reactive or overwhelmed. Dogs aren't jerks. You should never call your dog a jerk. Humans have that market cornered. Sometimes cats, mostly humans. If a dog is biting you, it's because they want you to get away, and they, at that point, don't have any other way to make it any clearer to you. If they're barking and lunging at other dogs, it's because they're over-aroused or they're afraid or they're stressed somehow, and that's how their body's responding. They're not doing it to get back at you. They're not doing it to make you angry. That requires a theory of mind. We have no evidence the dogs possess that. They're not jerks. Obnoxious, another word I would not use about a dog. Humans and cats have that market cornered. Stressed, aroused, low impulse control. If a dog is being obnoxious because they're jumping up and barking for attention, sure, that stresses you out. I recognize that. You don't have to be, the Buddha all the time and be perfectly okay with the dog jumping up and biting you in the face and ripping your clothes off. It doesn't mean that you have to be okay with it or you have to smile through it. It just means that putting a label on it like obnoxious changes your relationship, and it doesn't reflect what is actually going on. I'll explain that in a bit. Dominant. It's 100% not a thing. Dominance exists. And if we were researching capuchin monkeys in the wild, then it might be something we were keeping track of. It is not something that relates to you and your domestic dog or your working dog. It's not, don't worry about it. It's been thoroughly and repeatedly debunked. It has no bearing on, you don't need it. I'll put a link about more info on this from the American Veterinary Society of Animal Behavior. It's not a thing. Just flush it down the toilet. People on TV don't always know what they're talking about. People on Facebook do. Stupid. A more accurate word might be distracted or a beginner, new, confused, under or untrained. Dogs aren't stupid. Dogs do whatever makes the most sense in that moment. So if you're going down, 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 you stupid dog, down, your body's saying sit. They never learned the sound that's coming out of your mouth. They've been going off of what they learned in the past because they're smart and they're smarter than you, and they've realized that the things you do with your body are the most important things, and that's their first language. They simply haven't learned what you think they're learning. That doesn't mean they're stupid. It means that you're not putting yourself in their shoes and understanding the world from their perspective, or giving them the time and consideration needed to actually learn something to the degree that you want them to know it. Bad. There are no bad dogs. There's no such thing as a bad dog. There are dogs with problems, and there are dogs who don't fit into particular owners' lives. There are dogs who can't live in our world safely and happily. That doesn't mean they're bad. It means that they can't live in our world safely and happily. It means that they can't be safe in society. See, I even hesitate to call them dangerous. It's a legal title, legal label, but even dogs who are dangerous around men and children and most women, or every woman but their person, or other dogs and squirrels and cats, and Mondays, Tuesdays, and Wednesdays, on Thursday around just their person, then they're safe. So dogs who can't live in the world, I'd say it's because they are dangerous to so many things that there's no way to keep them safe and happy. A more accurate word for bad might be reactive, or they need space, or they're afraid, or they're bored if they're bad because they're getting into the trash, or undertrained if they're bad because they're jumping up. They just don't get it yet. 7 words you can't say around your dog, or your dog trainer is going to politely suggest an alternative. Here's why. Not just because I'm sort of a persnickety, sciencey kind of person who wants you to say the right word. I am, but I also want you to feel good and have a good time around your dog, and that trumps my persnickety little anal retentive needs for appropriate words. The reason I use the words that I use, and I encourage my clients to use the same words, or at least change their words, is because words make worlds. If you have the word obnoxious in your head, you see your dog, you see them performing it, you hear that word in your head, and then you give it life by speaking it and labeling your dog with that. That defines the way you see them. You will always have that neural pathway of see my dog do it, I called him obnoxious. That will always be there. You can't take your words back. And that will color the way that you see your dog. And the way that you see your dog and their behavior will color the way that you treat them, and the way you behave around them, and the way that you train them. And that can have severe psychological and humane impacts on your dog. So I'm not saying that just because you called your dog bad, you're gonna go around shocking them or dunking their head underwater or something like that. But it taints it, it colors it. It colors your perception of them and their behavior, and that will color the way that you treat them. So the reason that I want you to say cue instead of command is because it's technically correct, but also because when you think of it as a cue, then you're saying, all right, I'm making this signal, bang, and if my dog does it, he gets paid, rather than it's a command. He has to do it. If he doesn't do it, then he's being insubordinate and he's not following directions, and that means he's bad and he should be fired, or he should be fined or thrown in the hole or something like that. Words have meaning, and words make worlds. So dogs can't speak for themselves, if you haven't noticed. They try, we don't always listen. Dogs can't advocate for themselves. They live in a human world, for better or for worse. And it's our job to keep them safe and advocate for them. So when you're advocating and working with and teaching and imposing your will upon a living, sentient, feeling being who can't speak or communicate with you loud and clear in a way that you understand, then that means that you need to be really careful. You need to be really observant, and you need to be really deliberate in what you do and what you observe and how you take that in. So if someone's telling me my dog's really bad, he's obnoxious around other dogs, and he's aggressive, I'm gonna say, okay, well, what does that look like? Because bad, obnoxious, aggressive are labels. That doesn't tell me when he is 15 feet away from other dogs, his mouth closes and his pupils dilate and you see the whites of his eyes and he gets that mohawk. And then if he stares at them for more than 5 seconds, then it'll progress to a growl, and that will progress to barking and lunging. And he has bitten someone, but only in a circumstance where he was in a corner and he was going like this with his paw up and his whale eye and growling low and snarling, and then they kept going for him and then he bit. That's information, that's behavior. And defining it like that, describing it like that, rather than saying bad, aggressive, anything obnoxious, jerk, it tells me what's going on. And when we actually know what's going on, then we can help them, rather than saying, you are this, and that means all these other things about you. We're saying, we know these things about you. How can we help these things? We don't need a label on top, because we know you already. We don't need to put a word on it. We know you, and we can help you where you are with who you are, and we don't have to call it something besides training and behavior modification. So it's important to be clear and precise with your words, because I want to leave as little room as possible for subjective interpretation. When we have subjective interpretation, reality television show opinions come in, and things that aren't accurate, or our own personal feelings about how it makes us feel when our dog reacts, and that makes us angry and stressed and afraid and embarrassed and all these other things, and that can come out in how we treat our dogs. But if we describe what's going on and what we see, then we can see the dog and who they are and what they're experiencing in that moment, and we can help them from there. It's not to be cold and clinical and detached. It's to be observant and precise so that we can be empathic and helpful. So that's why I'm picky about words. Let me know if you have any questions or requests. If you say these words, I don't think you're a bad dog owner. I don't. I might go, well, what do you mean? Or give me more information on that. Or, oh, it sounds like he's afraid. Because you're not a bad person for using words. You're a person. Human beings use words. It's kind of what makes us humans. Dogs don't. So we have to be able to find that middle ground so that the words we use are actually describing the dog that we see, who doesn't use words. And we're not plastering something on top to assume and label a living being who's way more complicated than that. Let me know if you have any questions or requests. Loose leash walking class will be coming up in September. August is the next Zany to Zen. We've got beginner good manners going on all the time. Puppy 101 at Animal Health Clinic of Funkstown and North Paws. 2 fantastic vets in the area. Just 2 of them. 2 really good ones. Let me know if you have any questions or requests. Again, bye-bye.